I'm going to give you my 2 cents. This is, well, you can see Power of the Lamb posted this on the Advent Defense League. Ivor Myers is much more capable of explaining this, but I just want to give my 2 cents from a layman, non-pastor, non-elder, member of the church who went to Adventist schools. I'll just tell you my reaction. I haven't listened to Ivor Myers' reaction, so I'll just give you mine as a layperson without getting the answer from Ivor Myers first. And we can compare what he says with what I say, not knowing what he's going to say. I'll give you a. So I like theology. I read theology. I am interested in it. I watch and interact with other Christians for years now. I'm obsessed with it. I'm a layperson. I'm not trained by Adventists, but I went to Adventist schools. We had Bible class every year. And I'm interested in the subject. So I'll just give you my reaction.
Man, a lot of this stuff is even new to me. A lot of what you just said sounds a lot like the Jehovah's Witnesses faith that I'm pretty familiar with, right? They also believe that Jesus is Michael reincarnated as Michael the Archangel. And when I had conversations with them,
Reincarnated. No, we believe in resurrection and that Jesus is the eternal Son, not created. But okay, whatever. If you want to couch it in terms we don't use that are unbiblical and hoist it upon us, you can do that because you're free to be dishonest. I love that you're free to be dishonest.
They clearly believe that Jesus is not the eternal God, right? That he is a created being, Michael the Archangel, right? But when we put this online, and it was all in the comments, there were multiple people who believe or said they believe that who were SDA. They said they believed that Jesus was the eternal God, and that he was not that he was referred to as Michael the Archangel. But at the same time, like that was just one of his names. But he is the eternal God, the same thing that Orthodox Christians believe. Yeah. And so, can you explain? Like, is it them just clearly having a misunderstanding of the historical background of the SDA Church that you just gave? Like, why do you think? To me, it seems like so many Christians don't. I mean, so many SDAs don't believe that or don't understand the church history in that way. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, I've always believed that Jesus was the eternal God, a non-contingent source, and he wasn't created. That's what the official Adventist beliefs are. That's what I was taught and believed from Scripture my entire life.
Yeah, a lot of what the Adventist Church does is that because for them, subconsciously, Ellen White is infallible. There are those back in the day who used to be straight up and say she's infallible, but these days, especially since the 1950s, with the evangelical dialogues with Dr. Walter Martin, they're more shy to just embrace what they actually believe. And so they cover up a lot of these teachings with proof text from Scripture and verbiage of orthodoxy.
So this is like this is why I was interested in getting involved online, because of this kind of what they really believe. Like, this is psychologizing somebody 101. So what is it that someone, like if I said to a Calvinist, is what you really believe is God is Satan, right? Because you think God determines all evil and it couldn't be otherwise. So you believe God is Satan secretly. You just don't embrace it fully. Is that true? Is that a true statement, right? The implications of what you say about God would suggest that you don't even need a Satan. Now, Calvinists don't believe God is Satan, obviously, right? But the implication of their view, God determines all things that come to pass, and it couldn't be otherwise. Therefore, God's made Satan to be evil, and it had to be that way. That's what they say, because they don't believe in libertarian free will. They believe you're guilty for what God determined you to do. Therefore, God is God, God is Satan, God is just working out everything we do by his determined plan. Therefore, everything is God. Whatever you do is God's will, apparently. I mean, that's the implication, right? Therefore, they don't fully embrace what they believe, and they use proof texts, right? I could make that case, I guess. But here's the thing. You want to make a case that what do Adventists really believe? Well, every pastor, teacher that I grew up in the Adventist church instilled in me what I see in the scripture now for myself, and that is Jesus is not created, and that he's also Michael. It's another name for him. So at what point does it become what you really believe? No one, the official beliefs as voted on by the church body, believe Jesus is the eternal Son, non-created. That's what I was told to believe in the way that I was taught the Bible, and that's what I see in the Bible. In fact, I was taught in such a way to think, well, if Scripture actually proved that Michael was created, which it doesn't, but if it did, I would be more inclined to say, yeah, Jesus isn't Michael. It's more of a typology of who Jesus is. I would not make Jesus created to keep him Michael. I'm more inclined. I would say it's been more instilled in me that it's important that Jesus is God than it is that he is Michael one for one. But, this gets into it, like, what do they really... Oh, let me tell you. The Reformers thought Michael was Jesus. According to Spurgeon, Calvin, I think Knox, Wesley. That's what the Protestants said. They didn't think Jesus was... Therefore, they secretly thought Jesus was created. It doesn't make any sense. This is what I was saying. This is like conspiratorial thinking. It's easy to get, when you're trying to make somebody show that they're false, you start like saying, well, what they really believe, yeah, and the Calvinists really believe Jesus is Satan, God is Satan, because Satan is just doing God's will. So it's just rhetoric.
And so they believe that exact theology about Michael the Archangel. In fact, the Jehovah's Witnesses, when they came around in 1879, they got that theology from Seventh-day Adventists.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Seventh-day Adventists got the theology of Michael and Jesus being the same being from Protestants. So what? What do people believe about it? It's like, hey, evangelicals and Jehovah's Witnesses believe Michael is a created being. The Adventists and the Protestants, who are the fathers of your churches that you go to, right? Wesleyan, Calvinist. The fathers of those that theology thought Jesus and Michael were the same person, the eternal Son, like the Adventists do. But the evangelicals and these people, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, think Michael is a created being, like the Jehovah's Witnesses do. See, when you can say this is just, if you can make the same argument, the same claims, right? The question is, what do you believe about Jesus is what matters here. Do you believe Jesus was created? No. So I can couch this in the same way to make it sound bad, which is just rhetoric. Oh, these guys and the Jehovah's Witnesses, unlike Adventists and the original Protestants, in large part anyway, believe that Jesus and Michael are the same being, not created. But these Jehovah's Witnesses and Laurent, this guy here, they think Michael, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, are created. They're bad. See how dumb that is? What he's trying to say? It's, what do you call that? It's the fallacy of like a genetic fallacy. But his genetic relationship isn't really even valid because the issue at stake is the divinity of Jesus. So it doesn't matter what Jehovah's Witnesses believe. We agree with you, we agree with you against the Jehovah's Witnesses that Jesus is not a created being. So it's kind of a big deal, isn't it? But when you're looking to Adventists, say Adventists bad, You're like, well, what they really believe is Jesus is Michael. Right, like the Protestants. Because Jesus is the Prince of the Covenant. Like the angel of the Lord is Jesus. It's like if I was going to say, it's like when people say the Christophanies or the Theophanies of the angel of Yahweh when we're arguing for the Trinity against non-Trinitarians. What do we say? What do they say that's not valid? Oh, it's an angel. An angel can't be God. Yes, it can. God the Son can manifest as an angel, the angel of Yahweh. It's not valid. Well, it can't be Jesus because it's an angel. That's just bad. That's just poor man theology, isn't it? We don't accept those arguments against the Trinity because it's a surface level reading.
Witnesses founder was
Russell.
influenced by Seventh-day Adventism. So soul sleep and Michael the Archangel and a number of other things Jehovah's Witnesses got from Seventh-day Adventists. And they continue to be faithful to the original teaching. But because Adventism now start to get a lot of flack and they want to appear to be more orthodox, just like...
No. Ellen White thought Jesus was divine. You can see that in her writings, okay? Were there people in the early Adventist movement who weren't sure? Yeah. And that's a good thing that people are going back to Scripture. And so there's nothing wrong with development towards the truth. It means you can change your mind and come to knowledge of the truth. So what do Adventists actually believe is what matters. Oh, but some people used to believe things that weren't right. And then they changed, then they studied and they changed to what's true. And now we affirm what's true. But he wants to say, oh, they're just denying what they really believe, which is what some of the people used to believe in the early movement that was wrong, and then they changed their view, and the official view has been this. That's called honesty, integrity, and reforming your views to the truth of Scripture. That's not bad. That's good. No one's arguing that everybody in the early Advent movement was infallible. So this is like wanting your cake and eat it too. It's actually, it's what they call it. It's like a turd in the punch bowl is what it is. This guy is trying to put a turd in the punch bowl, and he's dishonest. Why? And this is what I tell people, and what I told Miles, and what I'll tell other people. When your ministry's focus and dedication is to tear somebody down, after a while the truth doesn't matter because your ministry is focused on making somebody else wrong. So you have to make them wrong. And then you start being dishonest like this guy. So be very careful if your ministry is dedicated to making somebody else wrong. You better be one shining example of Christ if that's your mission. You better really have your priorities straight. See, he can't lose this argument, so he has to be dishonest. Oh, mercy, Lord. I don't recommend having a ministry dedicated to tearing people down because you end up being dishonest. And now your whole life, now your whole reputation is based on being right and somebody else being wrong about something. It's impossible to be honest at a certain point because your whole ministry depends on it. Lord, have mercy.